This is historically, in my eyes, the best quarterback conference in all of college football, historically, but it's been down the last few years. Now we see a Dorian Thompson-Robinson who's playing his very best football, a Caleb Williams who is considered the best coming into the season, a bit spotty, as you just outlined. Cam Rising has taken a regression. Cam Ward was obviously an intriguing player coming into the season. Your thoughts about the best quarterback spot in the Pac-12?
Yeah, I think the best answer is Los Angeles has the best quarterback in the Pac-12. Now, whether it's DTR or Caleb, that's the interesting debate. And I will say DTR is better right now. All right, I'll be clear about that. But some people are trying to say it's not even close. We need to dial that one back a little bit, because we need to remember that UCLA almost lost to South Alabama, didn't play particularly well in that game. So in terms of a 6-game body of work, and so Caleb was bad against Oregon State, not gonna lie about that or ignore it. So DTR's body of work has been better, but it's not a Grand Canyon size difference. And the other thing we really need to point out here, UCLA's offensive line was awesome against Utah. And UCLA's offensive line is healthier than USC's. And what did we say? It's all throughout the offseason. We continue to say it on these USC shows here at the Voice of College Football, that if you get the USC starters out on that offensive line, if you have to go down the depth chart, if you have to rotate bodies, the offense is going to be a little more frayed at the edges. It's not going to be the fully polished product. I mean, when did we see the USC offense in full flight this year? Week 2, Stanford. Now, I know Stanford's bad, all right, and Stanford's been getting boat raced pretty regularly in Pac-12 play, but USC put up 35 touchdowns on each of its first 5 possessions in that game, didn't even get to third down. If USC needed to score 70 in that game, it would have, but USC downshifted, got a 27-point lead, just kind of cruised along because, didn't need to score more than the 41 points it actually scored. And that was all the game required. And it's early in the season. You're building towards something bigger and better down the line. So USC didn't need to score more than 41. But if it had to, like let's say Tanner McKee and the Cardinal offense had scored 35, 40 points, USC would have scored 56. USC would have scored 63 if it needed to in that game. So that first half against Stanford was when we saw the USC offense in full flight, and that was when all 5 offensive line starters were healthy. Justin Dedich came back. He did not play against Arizona State, came back against Washington State, and you saw Travis Dye rush for 149 yards. So like this, with Dedich back in there, you saw some improvement relative to the Arizona State game, which was a little more spotty. And we really need to see Cortland Ford back. And they've been very cautious with him, appropriately so. That's also what makes USC's 6-0 record so impressive, is that USC's winning these games without its offensive line, its starting offensive line, fully healthy. If Cortland Ford can play against Utah and he can be reasonably effective, not spectacular, but reasonably effective, and of course not playing the past few weeks except for a few snaps, very briefly against Arizona State, he's physically fresh now. And so assuming that he can give it a go and be reasonably effective, like that raises the ceiling for what USC's offense can achieve. So in terms of comparing DTR and Caleb, DTR, he's been great and he's more experienced than Caleb. That also matters. And you're not seeing DTR make the bad mistakes that he'd made in previous years. I think that's the biggest thing with DTR. He's not throwing that killer interception. That's what Cam Rising is doing this season. So DTR is more disciplined with the ball, and you marry that with his athletic talent, you get a complete package. So I will say that DTR is better, but I will also say that UCLA's offensive line health has been better than USC's, and we can't ignore that in the larger comparison.
And if you want to go the NFL draft route, Connor Johnson is a point in going to Stanford and Tanner McKee, who might be the best quarterback in the Pac-12 if you're a scouting or personnel director in the NFL and scouting the draft in particular. But it's difficult to evaluate with the lack of talent around him. So
it's also fascinating to compare the starting backfields in Los Angeles. Caleb Williams and Travis Dye versus DTR and Zach Charbonnet. And I would, again, give UCLA an edge, but I would, again, point out that the offensive lines have something to do with that. So I will say UCLA has the edge right now, but I'm also going to say that it's still a close contest. And, we will get to play this out in the Rose Bowl on November 19th. And, so this next month, I mean, obviously we're focused on Utah right now, and Oregon is focused on, and UCLA is focused on Oregon on the 22nd. UCLA is off this week. The Ducks are as well. But, just thinking about the next month, it's going to be fascinating to see what this next month brings. And we're going to see what the stakes actually are for USC UCLA when we arrive at game week in the Arroyo Seco.